Well, kia ora, everyone. Yes, it is indeed the morning, bright and early. And it's really lovely to be part of this webinar today. So thank you all for inviting me. Now, my presentation isn't so much words. We have got more imagery in mind today. So whenever we joined the Pin Drop Foundation over a decade ago, we had been working very closely with the Northern Cochlear Implant Trust and the Southern Cochlear Implant Trust here in New Zealand. There's two. Have been working very closely with ministry and funders to get, the value about cochlear implants on the table with ministry and the need to fund them. So we thought to complement that good work in that relationship building field was to have a consumer-led advocacy, because we knew the difference consumers could make to complement the work that was going on by the trusts. So first thing we needed to do was find consumers, speak to consumers. So we went about, we met with consumers through the programs, and we travelled throughout the North Island for the Northern Cochlear Implant Trust region and listened to what their concerns were. Now, of course, it was about access to cochlear implants and timely access. I think back then we were funding about 5 per trust, fully funded. I think that is correct. I think there was 10 nationally, which, as you can imagine, had left people waiting for a very long time. Their options to actually get an implant was very slim, really. And we met all these wonderful consumers who were so frustrated, their lives turned upside down, that they just couldn't communicate. They were retreating from life. They'd lost their voice, per se, literally and metaphorically, in the sense that they'd retreated from life. They felt they weren't valued, that they had nothing to contribute, because the way the system made them feel that they just weren't of value anymore. And it was devastating to see what the impact that their deafness was having on them. So the first thing we thought, well, we actually need a petition. We garnered them together. At that stage, we hadn't got online petitions. It was paper and pen. And we had some amazing consumers, and they literally walked the streets of the towns in the North Island that we were servicing. And they got 9,000 signatures together. And here we are, the first petition we took to Parliament, on the steps of Parliament. We made signs. Actually, we were at the hearing house before the new building was made, and we had a garage outside, and our consumers made these wonderful ear signs with hear, and the importance it was. And the MP that we presented that to was Mojo Mathers, who had a hearing loss herself. And so she presented the petition for us. Now, this actually led to us getting a meeting with the Health Select Committee. And so we got to present a paper to them, and we had 5 of our consumers, each at a different life stage, each had a different story, but they were all saying the same thing about the impact the hearing loss had in their lives and what it had stolen from them, and how they had lost their place in society and the contributions they could make. And it was very, very powerful. Well, that was actually very successful at that point. I think we doubled the funding back then. This is probably nearly a decade ago. So we thought, well, clearly this strategy is working. It's really complementing the work of the trusts. So we thought, well, actually, there's quite a few skill sets that are needed to become a good consumer advocate. We all come with different skills and strengths. And I'd been involved in the oncology setting prior to coming into the cochlear implant programs. And internationally, they had quite an extensive consumer advocacy training program. The one I went to in the States was actually a 5-day one, really extensive. Australia was a 4-day one. And they went over such things as, so what do consumers really need to know? Well, you need to actually be able to read a scientific article and be able to take the information and put it into layman's terms, to understand the economics, the health economics of it. Like, what are, whenever they're making health decisions at government, what are they facing with? So you might have $1,000, say, for example, and you have got 5 things on the table that's vying for that $1,000. You can vaccinate 100 children. You can, do we get a new surgery that's going to help 20 people? Is it going to be a CI that can help 2 people? So they're playing with these cost benefit analysis and how many they're going to get as bang for your buck. So to understand that, whenever you're frustrated as a consumer and your life is it's devastating. Well, how do you make your voice heard? How can you put your case forward with passion and conviction, but without attacking the person who's making the decision, and not get personal? It's about passion for the policy, really. So the things we covered whenever we took on the training for our consumer representatives here in New Zealand was the health sector here is very complex between funders and providers. So it's knowing that system really well. So we need to cover that area so they actually really knew. Oh, Kaz, can you go to the next one, please? Sorry, Kaz, it should be. And the next one, Kaz, too, please. Thank you. The various levels of consumer engagement. Back one, please, Kaz. Because some people can get overwhelmed naturally. So when you think, oh my goodness, I can't do media, I can't do politicians, but I can't do events. So it's letting people know that your strength and your skill set, there is a role for you within it. You don't have to do everything, but you're covered. You're getting the skill sets and everything to understand it, but we'll use your strengths and you can choose what you want to do. So we had health economics, we had public speaking and communication, networking. We also had effective participation in meetings, tips and tools on how to do it, and media training. So this slide here, we've actually got, you can see one of our consumers, she met, back Kaz, please. Back one. Yeah, that one. We met with politicians in Parliament. We're meeting with Michelle Neef, one of our surgeons, giving a complete overview of how the CI works and the technology. So you actually really understand it whenever you're having conversations with the influencers that you need to speak to. We've got Cedric there, who runs a group, one of our consumer groups up in Northland. And we've actually got, one of our first campaigns we did was a massive big ear that we took round. Can you show the previous slide there, Kaz, please? As well, back to the ones with words on it. That's it. It is our training program was quite extensive. It was a 2-day one, so not quite a 5-day one that the oncology had, but we covered that really well. And we also, listen to what our consumers really want. They tell us what areas they want to be involved in. We respond to their needs. I mean, that's the nice thing about New Zealand. It's not hierarchical. It's very much, we're all on the same level playing field, and we're bringing different skills and talents to the table. And so we tended to run the consumer representative training program once every 2 years pre-COVID. And this was a really good baseline for us to go off. Kaz, can you please go forward 2 slides, please? Because what we also leveraged, next one again, Kaz, please. Yeah, so consumer stories. I mean, this is really important whenever we were running our campaigns. We timed them usually in February and March to coincide with CI International Day and World Hearing Day. So we tended to launch our stories then. And we were lucky to we identified really key journalists who were really passionate about the cochlear implant cause. One was a lady called Andrea Vance. She was an excellent journalist. She was a political journalist. She took the story by the bit, and also a woman by the name of Jill Higgins. Now, they were fantastic journalists with us, and they really pushed it over the line when we got the significant funding a couple of years ago. Anytime we went with a story, we went to them with the story, we would get the story in. And we would often do lifetime stories from having an implant and follow a consumer through getting the implant and the post story, which was really, really powerful. And people couldn't believe the difference that CI's made, because there was lots of myths to be debunked in New Zealand, because many people thought they were still for children, and still to this day, people think they're just for children. And because we're in the community, we think nobody's going to think that now. Everybody must know they're for adults, but they don't. And we're still finding that, and you wouldn't believe where we're finding the information where they still think that. We'll come to that shortly. So as well as doing good media stories and targeting your journalists, don't just do a sweep, but actually do your research on your journalist. Who's been running these stories? Who seems interested? Is it a political journalist we need? Is it a health journalist we need? Because just a press release out to all and sundry, it won't get picked up. You need to target it to individual journalists that you know are going to be really interested. So what we then did, so as well as our media stories, our consumer training, our political stuff, we did events as well. So the events we considered doing was to bring the whole cochlear implant community together here in New Zealand. It was from influencers in Parliament and the ministry to our surgeons, our researchers, and our consumers. So everybody was in there. It was 2 days of full-on discussion where we could, decide, well, actually, what needs to be addressed. And it's a chance for consumers really to give their voice at the table, to be heard. Next slide, please, Cass. To hear what is really needed, and for people in power, i.e. the funders, to see the impact that cochlear implants are making, the advancements that research has discovered, the cost benefit analysis that is there. It's so important for everybody to be there, to have those discussions and to network together. And the value in that was excellent. And Sue actually came down to this, and also we were very privileged to have Frank Lynn come down to New Zealand. So it was a wonderful opportunity to bring the international community together and to hear from them. Now, I know and just to wrap up, our final couple of events that we do every year, we tend to do the GP conference. We also do where we will find consumers at consumer conferences, need that be agricultural events, aging expos, retirement expos. So wherever we can have those really valued discussions. So that's us. That's a quick snapshot. I probably spoke a bit quickly. I do apologise with my Northern Irish accent as well. But that was us, and we've had great results. We've now got 120 implants funded in New Zealand. So the two-tiered approach between consumers and the building of relationships with Parliament, with our trusts, have really resulted in really good things for our community. So and we're still continuing on that journey. So thank you so much for letting me share the Aotearoa New Zealand's journey in consumer advocacy. Thank you.